Ladies and gentlemen, we're going straight to Vim by Mutihiri Ekpeyon.
I'm here doing my victory lap. Good morning, Rotas, Ajaero. How are you guys doing this morning?
Good to see you. Good to see you.
We're going to steer away from U.S. politics for today.
Oh, sorry, I've been reading Breitbart because of you.
Because of me?
Yes. You know,
that's not part of my reading list, Rufai.
Can you hear what they say in Breitbart? They're
Rufai, let's
it's
focus.
It's noteworthy that they conveniently not shove Biden in the trunk of the car at the end of the night. Well, after the prime time on Monday night. Breitbart.
Okay.
Oh, my
wonderful.
goodness.
You know what? You know what's really top of conversation right now? Everything happening in Nigeria. We have so many issues at home that we need to dissect. So let's bring, and for those of us who don't have US visas, let's bring the conversation back home. And we'll start with this day newspaper. Our newspaper of record. Of course, you've already dissected the leading stories in a lot of detail, but just to breeze through them, the NLC, of course, is seeking the time extension for Ajaero to honor his police invitation and, of course, threatening a strike as well. Amnesty International has accused the federal government of targeting labor leaders, a conversation that you've had in great depth, and it's also dominating the front pages of most Nigerian newspapers today. Just above that and below the masthead is all about Pa Edwin Clark and that letter that he's written to the leadership of the PDP, insisting that Minister of FCT Nyesom Wike must leave the PDP for the party to survive. And of course, this is also on the backdrop of the meeting, the inauguration, of the recently constituted Reconciliation and Disciplinary Committee of the PDP. So they will be inaugurating that today. At the very top, I know something that's got Rotus's attention, Business World's attention. CBN declares $553 million remittance inflows amid FX reforms. That's $500 million, guys, being sent from the diaspora. Crazy numbers. Anyway, let's move to the New Telegraph. Again, New Telegraph leading with the Joe Ajaero story. And NLC threatening to shut down economy if Ajaero is arrested. I think we're all a little bit nervous about this because they've also threatened to shut down electricity like they did with their last strike. And that was an absolute nightmare. So, a little bit concerned about that development. And quickly, just to finish on the Ajaero story, let's go to Vanguard and see how Vanguard has reported the same issue. Vanguard is saying police invitation to Ajaero, we won't be silenced. That's a quote from the NLC. However, I'll take us back to the New Telegraph because there are a number of other issues of key interest there on the front page of the New Telegraph. One of them is COP 2019. We all know the countdown is on to COP 29. That's a climate summit. This year it will be taking place in November in Azerbaijan. Now, the headline says Tinubu orders scrutiny pruning of delegates to save 10 billion naira. So he has established what is called the Climate Accountability and Transparency Portal. This is after, if you remember, last year, Nigeria made world headlines for having one of the biggest delegations at the COP28 summit. So in response to that, they've created this portal which is supposed to screen government delegates who will be attending the climate summit. Quite a big, shall I say, undertaking to make, just to make sure you have the right number of people traveling. But that's what they've done in the interest of efficiency. Also, of course, we've been following the story of the medical students who were kidnapped. Enugu is saying that they are set to demolish properties that are being used for kidnapping, and the Reps Minority Caucus condemns rising abductions on highways. Of course, we do know those students were kidnapped in Benue State. However, they were on their way to a medical conference. Now we go to Punch newspaper. Punch newspaper leading with our fuel woes have not gone anywhere anytime soon. NMPC reports 9.3 trillion petrol imports as queues linger. Petrol subsidy gulps 3.3 trillion. NMPC incurs 1.8 trillion energy security costs. I'm not going to spend too much time on that because Rotus has the Bible with him here in studio. So I know he has every intention of really going into that in detail. However, another big controversy conversation. Aviation sector at the very top of punch above the masthead. Forex shortage. Domestic airlines have grounded 42 aircrafts in the past 2 years. And this is because they don't have access to foreign currency to keep their fleet in good service. And they're also struggling to adhere to some of the policies that have been introduced. So this report is saying that this has been a major contributor to the increase in airfare prices. Next to that, another big story is that the Independent Petroleum Producers Group have declined to sell 460,000 of crude oil that they account for to Dangote and other local refineries. So they represent 30% of Nigeria's crude output, and they're saying that even NNPC should not be allocating to Dangote refinery because there's already a supply shortage and they're unable to meet the demands of the local refineries that are already in operation. That is according to the Independent Petroleum Producers Group. They do not want to supply the Dangote refinery. That's a conversation to be had. Now, very quickly to Daily Trust newspaper. Daily Trust has a very concerning report. This is concerns as 43 die of food poisoning in 2 weeks. Now, the issue here is that people have started hoarding food in various parts of the countries. Now, because there are no adequate storage facilities, people are using all manner of dangerous chemicals to try and preserve grain. There's an entire family that died after eating cassava meal. So all manner of weird ways and weird things that we're using to try and preserve the food that we hoard for longer. So many families are dying. 43 is the official figure here, but when you read the report, you'll hear about tragic. You hear a mother and all of her children dying after eating. You hear of entire families, really, really terrible stuff. So that's something that needs to be investigated, and we need to find out how to get to the bottom of that. Now to The Guardian. The Guardian is where a lot of the juice is for me today. The headline is about the duty on FX rates shifting 100 times in 2024, spiking the prices of goods by 120%. But that's not even the juice. The juice is in the right-hand corner, where Tinubu's foreign trips cost Nigeria 2.3 billion naira in 6 months. Now, this is a report from GovSpend, which shows that between Feb 21 and July 19th, Tinubu has spent 2.3 billion. Between February 24th to March 15th, the government has spent 2.9 billion naira on buying foreign currency for the President, Vice President, and First Lady for trips to Ethiopia, Switzerland, Liberia, France, and Cote d'Ivoire. All right, let's go to some African papers. We'll just touch on one. Let's go to the Business Day of South Africa, where although there's a lead story of focusing on Sasol, on the left strip there's a story focusing on the home affairs and systemic crisis, a report by the new Minister of Home Affairs, Leon Schreiber. And this is, a lot of this has been, catapulted, or shall I say catalyzed, because of the issue of the Miss South Africa contestant of Nigerian descent. The investigation into her has launched a whole inquiry into the fraudulent system of acquisition of South African IDs in that country. And as we round up, The Guardian UK, where Reeves plans tax rise amid alarm over black hole. And this is all about how the pickup in the economy has actually failed to improve poor state of public finances. And Chancellor Reeves still intends to increase taxes. Lastly, that picture of King Charles, who finally, weeks later, has actually for the first time, has actually visited, the tribute paid to Southport victims that led to the riot. So a lot of criticism, because it took him a very long time to pay tribute to those stabbing victims. But wow, a lot to unpack there.
I'll start with The Guardian and very quickly. So Chancellor of the Exchequer, Reeves, has to raise taxes. We watched the debates between Sunak and Kerma, and taxes have to go up in the UK because of the situation there, and things are going to take time. That's The Guardian in the UK. Guardian here in Nigeria. Yes, the FX duty rates are going to move because the FX rate has been liberalized. So as it moves, the customs is going to shift it up and down. But remember that the government has instituted a freeze on import duties for food over the next 150 days or
which
180.
They say hasn't been implemented
right,
yet.
So which they say, I think October 1st or so is when they want to get it. I would say, it should be already now. But anyway, pretty much that is supposed to be able to reduce the price of food. But what happened with the Daily Trust, with those families dying, power. You need proper storage facilities for food. And then CBN, the top of the masthead for Business Day, this day newspaper, the 553 million is the highest amount of diaspora funds, remittances that are coming in 1 month. Again, because if your auntie or uncle wants to send you money, they now have a proper, clear view of how much the rate is supposed to be, and that has helped. But then, of course, you have the aviation people saying they don't have enough effect. So these things take time.
I don't think that Chancellor Reeves would be the most popular person, especially moving away from some of Labour's ideal with regards to welfare. Talking about taking the winter fuels for pensioners, also cutting, because of, aside from raising taxes, also cutting costs. But these are some of the hard decisions that must be taken in order to reduce borrowing in the UK. And we see how, right from it, they've not spent even 6 months in office, and some very critical policy decisions that they've taken in order to strengthen the economy. We'll see in a few months whether or not this would work, and also to see the impact on the people. Remember, the UK is still recovering from a cost of living crisis, and a number of these measures were put in place to alleviate, at least, or to cushion the effect or the impact of the cost of living crisis, especially on the most vulnerable people, including pensioners. But let me come back to that report, I think on the New Telegraph, where we talk about the COP29 platform. I think it's actually a great measure. And I say this because one of the criticisms that we have of the government is that when they instigate an investigation into a particular matter, that's the end we hear of it. So this is an outcome from the investigation of the wastefulness of COP28. And following that, in order to mitigate these happening again at COP29, they decided to put up this platform. And I think kudos to the government on that one. We imagine that the report revealed, the investigative report on how much waste happened at COP28 revealed that $500,000 was spent to build a pavilion for the delegates to amidst other wastages. And just to mention that I don't think this should end just for COP. UNGA is coming, other foreign trips. Let's have platforms like that where it's very transparent.
And I thank the government for this, but until I see the number of delegation of people that use this platform, that's when I will know we are serious. But it's a good one. I'm very happy about it because we talked about the level of waste. I didn't even know that they used $500,000 to build a pavilion. How much did the president also spend for his hotel? I mean, there are many questions we didn't ask about that COP and what happened. But for me, I said it on this table. You see, my problem is I'm a realist. I knew Keir Starmer was going to plunge UK into higher taxes. And I was saying that thing. When Rishi Sunak said it, that how are they going to pay that 40 billion deficit? Keir Starmer said, don't worry. He never came through. He never spoke the truth. Now, less than how many months, he's already asking. So the truth has to be said. Labour, and I predicted in the first 6 months, when I say they will become very unpopular, you will see the effect of raising those taxes on the British people at this point in time. Their honeymoon period will be over. I said this. I'm much of a realist. And as I say in the end, Rufai is always correct. Because I said it. Rotus coming back to... It's true. Because I always say these things the way they should be said. I don't sugarcoat it. Secondly, look at what is it called now? We are saying that we need electricity to be able to store food. Rotus is not electricity. We have silos that the government have sold to private people. That's why you are having a recurrence of all this poisoning of food for the people.
That's concerning.
So we need to invest in silos and the likes to cushion post-harvest losses over 50% as we speak. That's the sad reality of the country as we speak today.
Yep. All right, we're going to Vimbai, as awesome stuff as always. Thank you so much for the...
Rufai is always right.
We'll take it. All right. Yeah, you did.